Susan Jean Avery.
Hello, it's Sarah Jean, known as SJ more commonly.
All right.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today. I've sent a letter to the commissioners that basically has my major concerns. In terms of full disclosure, I should probably mention that I am a patron-level BAM supporter. I also give money to the Brooklyn Public Library, and I'm a very proud member of the Park Slope Civic Council. I'm a trustee of that organization. And with that organization, I share a concern that's been referenced earlier regarding the swap of the Pacific Branch Library for the new library that's going to be going into the BAM South site. I like the idea of the BAM South site. I think there are a lot of terrific opportunities for that site. What I have serious problems with is sacrificing a very important resource in my neighborhood. I live 6 blocks from the Pacific Branch. I've been there for 30 years. I've seen the upzoning of 4th Avenue. I've seen the great increase in population. I've seen the change on that area. What has remained consistent in that neighborhood has been the level of services and the attachment of that community to the Pacific Branch. It was interesting to hear the speaker from the library say that, seem to imply that they are not that closely attached to the plan of moving the Pacific Branch into the BAM South. On their website, they say that the Two Trees Management Company, a Brooklyn real estate developer, is currently building a multi-use cultural and housing complex. BPL has an exciting opportunity to build a new library. BPL plans to sell the existing Pacific Branch and use the proceeds generated by the sale to pay for the fit-out of the new Pacific Branch. Well, it's not really going to be the Pacific Branch anymore. At public presentations that the Brooklyn Public Library has made, they have really said that this is basically a done deal. And that's the concern here in terms of the review of this project. They have presented it as a project going to the point of saying they are already beginning negotiations with the cities for memorandums of understanding so that the proceeds from the sale of the Pacific Branch could go to the outfitting of this new branch. As the representative from the public library mentioned, the disposition of this branch would require its own ULURP process, which has not even begun. They have not had the simple courtesy of a hearing with Community Board 6, which, if you read their minutes, are somewhat upset about that factor because Community Board 6 has also historically supported the concept of, or the idea of landmarking of the Pacific Library. We realize in the community that it's going to take resources to fix the library and enhance the library. We'll take that chance.
Thanks so much. Let me see if there are questions for you. Michelle Bellows.
Hi, SJ. Thanks for being here. I'm just wondering if you could clarify one thing for us, because some people might be more attached specifically to the Pacific Branch Library from an architectural perspective, and some people are more focused on the programming piece of it. Could you maybe tease out briefly those two issues, and if you can speak to the Park Slope Civic Council's position on that?
They certainly are attached, and I mean, the Park Slope Civic Council had actually made as a unanimous resolution, and I can quote from part of it, that they basically said that a resolution was unanimously passed by the Board of Trustees that authorized the resubmission of a request for landmark evaluation. But what was important was that it also stated, in this place I'll quote, public affirmation of the belief that the services provided by the existing public branch library should continue to be provided in the current location, thereby remaining in the neighborhood immediately served by the library. The library, the actual structure is was designed by the noted architect Raymond Amaral, who has other landmark buildings in Brooklyn and actually very close to this building. And it certainly is one of the few remaining resources in one of the few remaining buildings that gives one a sense of place. And I don't know, I think the Planning Commission sometimes speaks to the importance of a sense of place, but it's very integral to our community. From a programming perspective, there are 3 schools just down the block from the Pacific Branch that use it routinely. In fact, one of those schools, the PTA at one of those schools, wrote a letter of support to the Landmarks Commission saying, we want this is an important resource to us, we want it kept. At my corner, there's a new school going up that will have 900 students. And again, at the last report from the School Construction Authority, there was no library in that building. It is a resource for the young people who use the library after school, where parents very frequently tell their kids to go, and they'll be picked up later. That's a really important kind of issue. And it's, if you go in that library, if you actually visit that library, it's busy all the time. There are young people in it. There are retirees in it. It hosts a variety of resources, public meetings. It's a very important resource. It has in the last year that figures were available, which was 2011, it had close to a 93,000 circulation. It's been increasing in use, again, partially because of the upzoning along 4th Avenue and the attendant development of the population there. But it's increased by 65% over the last year. We recognize that there's a similar increase across across Flatbush. It was just discussed today. There's 6,000 some units coming in with Atlantic Yards alone. And one of the other speakers talked about, in fact, the difficulty of so many units coming in that it begins to affect the sense of neighborhood. There certainly are resources there for a library, and we're not making the argument that there shouldn't be a library in BAM South. But what we are saying is that you don't sacrifice an existing resource, sort of cram it in, say it's going to meet all the needs, really extraordinary needs in another area, and abandon a neighborhood. It is not going to meet those needs. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm watching your hands.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thanks very much for coming. We appreciate it.